Good morning. Well, I did make it in the morning. Just about have to today because today's Tulsa Tuesday and we go up to Tulsa, of course. Why else would it be Tulsa Tuesday? Anyway, we'll leave for there about 1:30 this afternoon, so I need to make sure I get all my stuff done in the morning. And I've been working on it. Jeremiah chapter 31. We're still here. We're going to get a little further today because I'm going to read a pack of verses that are describing the same thing and then again try to do some explanation as we go. I will just bring up from Saturday and yesterday, just bring us up to speed. And I want to thank all of you for the encouragement you give me. I want to thank you for following the program. I know that sometimes some of you share it. I appreciate that. You know, nothing we do is copyrighted. Even the new books that I'm writing, we're not copywriting anything. At least as far as the gospel material goes, because we want anybody who wants anything we got, I want them to get it for free. It's important to you to have this information, and it's important for me to get it out to you. I remember what J. Vernon McGee used to always say. His whole deal was to get the whole word out to the whole world. And I don't know whether he copyrighted that saying or not, but he gave it away for free. I mean, they were published as books later and as commentaries. But the radio program, he gave it away for free. You could get the notes. You could get it all. You could get all the information. And I like the idea of that. I always did. Besides, when I used to travel and sell books and CDs, I'd get up there and preach and play, and then at the intermission or the break or whatever you want to call it, I'd be standing out there in the lobby trying to sell all my stuff. Buy this, you know. I got to tell you, it always felt weird to me. Come to my table. It felt really weird. God has blessed me in that I'm not having to do that to stay alive. Maybe I would be better off financially if I did do that, but, you know, I'm 69 years old. How much longer do I have? Even if Jesus doesn't come back as soon as I think he's going to, that's not a lot of time. I figure I can make it on what the Lord gives me every week and every month through the kindness of others when I go and minister in their churches. I'm able to live on that. And I will continue to do so as long as the Lord allows. Beginning in verse 8, chapter 31, Jeremiah. Behold, I will bring them from a far country and gather them from the coast of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame, the woman with child and her that travails with child together, and a great company shall return hither. And they shall come with weeping, with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by rivers of waters in a straight way wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn, which of course he wasn't. But then I've shown you through the scriptures how that there will come a day when God will reclaim Ephraim and love him as much as the firstborn, the beginning of strength. Hear the word of the Lord, O ye nations, and declare it into the isles afar off, and say, He that scattereth Israel shall gather him, and keep him as a shepherd doth his flock. Then yesterday, for the Lord hath redeemed Jacob. Remember, it doesn't say the Lord will redeem, or the Lord shall redeem, or the Lord's gonna redeem. The Lord hath redeemed Israel, Judah, Jacob. Jacob he hath revealed. Come on, tongue, say the right words. Do you ever have dyslexia of the tongue, where you mean to say one word but say another? That's happened ever since my brain surgery. I know the right word, but then when I hear it come out of my mouth, I know it's not what I intended to say. I have to concentrate. I understand from my surgeon it was like dyslexia with reading, how you see words and sentences scrambled. I was clearly looking at the word redeemed, but I said revealed. Well, it shall be revealed that the Lord shall redeem Jacob. The Lord hath redeemed Jacob. He's not going to do it in the future. He's already done it. It's a done deal. We may not see that it's happened yet. We may not see the evidence in front of our eyes of that having happened, but in God's mind, he has already redeemed Jacob, which means the whole house of Israel. And that's amazing to me. You know, remember, we were saved from the foundation of the world. Jesus bought us with his precious blood. For the Lord hath redeemed Jacob, and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. The Lord bought him back. The Lord bought you and me, remember? 1 Corinthians, you're bought with a price. You're not your own. Then in the very next chapter, Paul writes it again, for you're bought with a price. Be not ye the servants of men. Must have thought that was pretty important, or he wouldn't have written it twice. The Holy Ghost would not have told him to write it down twice. He repeats it one chapter after another. Jesus hath redeemed us. It's already happened. It happened at the cross. You have to make a decision whether to accept the payment. If you don't accept the payment, then you will have to pay the price yourself, and that will be an eternity in hell. Because whatever we do isn't good enough to gain entry into heaven. For all of sin comes short of the glory of God. Good morning, Gayla. So see, no matter what we do, we can't earn our way to heaven. Nobody can. No, Jesus has already paid the price, just like it says here in verse 11. The Lord hath redeemed Jacob. This is already a done deal. Our redemption is already a done deal. We just have to accept it. We have to believe it. We have to follow Christ. We have to accept the payment. You're perfectly free to say, no, I think I'll just stay here on the chain gang and bust rock for eternity. I don't want to be redeemed. Go spend your money on someone else. I don't need you. And that's what most of the world does. Most of the world says, I don't need you, Jesus. The Psalm says, the fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Literally translated word for word, it said, the fool has said in his heart, no God. I will have no God, no God, no God. I don't care if he's real or not. I don't care if he's Jesus or not. I don't care if he created the world. I don't care if he's coming back in glory. I don't care if he's going to send the unbelieving to eternal damnation and punishment, where they will live forever and be tormented day and night in flames of fire and brimstone, the lake of fire that burneth with fire and brimstone. Now, I don't care about all that. Just keep it. I don't want you to buy me. I don't accept the payment. And that's what most of the world does. But most of you watching this program have already accepted the payment that Jesus made for you. Jesus paid it all to him. He's not paying right now. It's already paid. Our Catholic friends are wrong. You don't have to sacrifice him on the altar every day in order to stay saved. No, He was sacrificed once for all, the book of Hebrews tells us. Once. But if the payment has already been made, you just have to accept it. And that's why God is saying here, the Lord hath redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. We were in a chain gang. We were bound for sin. We were slaves to Satan. We were bound for hell. We were bound in our sin, chained by our sin. And we were on our way to hell. Jesus saw that chain gang passing by and he said, I want him. And he pointed at me. Satan had to let him go. And Jesus paid for me. And when I followed him, instead of keeping following Satan and that chain gang, that's when I accepted the payment. You see, I'm still a slave. I just have a different master. And my master is the Lord Jesus Christ. And there are no chains on my wrist. There are no shackles. There are no shackles on my wrist and on my ankles. There's no chain leading me in the line. I don't have a manacle around my neck, but I follow him anyway because I love him. And you follow him too because you love him, because he bought you out of hell. He bought me out of hell. The Lord hath redeemed us. Before I go on, I just want to visit a passage that I love. It's about the Good Samaritan. And it's really about Jesus. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain. He washed it white as snow. Chapter 10 of the Gospel according to St. Luke, beginning in verse 30. And Jesus answered and said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise the Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. Remember yesterday when we read Ezekiel 16? The Lord said, I saw you polluted and thine own blood left on the manure pile to die, and I took pity on you. I had compassion on you, and I breathed on you, and I said, live. And I took you home, and I cleaned you up. So that's what God does for us. And the Samaritan went to the man and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And on the morrow when he departed, he took out 2 pence. That was 2 days' pay. Pence represented a day's pay. And gave them to the host, and said unto him, take care of him. And whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. It's a blank check. It's open-ended. Now which now of these 3 thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among thieves? And the lawyer said, he that showed mercy on him. And Jesus said unto him, go and do thou likewise. Here's the key phrase. He gives the owner of the inn 2 pence and says, take care of him, the wounded man. And whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Whatever he spends, I will pay. Whatever debts he has, I will pay. Whatever he needs, I will pay. Whatever he eats, I'll pay for it. If he wants steak every night, then feed him steak every night. I'll pay for it. If he needs to go see the doctor 22 times and go to therapy, I'll pay for it. If he needs an operation, I'll pay for it. You see, there is no end to the debt that we can rack up, but there is no end to the mercy of Jesus Christ, who is willing to give a blank check on our sin. Whatever we've done, it's paid for. Murder, paid for. Theft, paid for. Fornication, paid for. Lying, paid for. It's all paid for. It's all under the blood. The blood washes us white as snow. I love that. Whatever he owes, I'll pay. That is the essence of our salvation. That Jesus paid what he didn't owe when I owed what I couldn't pay. Whatever it cost, I'll pay it. And you see, it's already been done. For the Lord hath redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. We had no way to free ourselves. We had no amount of money would buy us loose. It had to be done by the Lord himself. The Lord had to take us out of the bondage of sin and deliver us into the bondage, which is freedom of liberty. The liberty of following Jesus. You see, I don't have chains anymore. I don't have to follow Jesus. But I do. Because he set me free, just like that old song says. He turned me loose. The chains were gone. They fell off me. And I turned around and followed the man who set me free. Like blind Bartimaeus, it says, he didn't just stay where he was after Jesus healed him. He said he followed Jesus in the way. That's what happens when you get saved. You follow Jesus. Now let's pick up here today, verse 12, in Jeremiah chapter 31. Therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Zion. This is talking about when Jesus returns at the end of the great tribulation and all Israel is gathered together. They shall come and sing in the height of Zion. Remember, that's where Jerusalem is the center of the universe in God's economy. Why are they coming to Zion? Why are they singing in Zion? Because King Jesus sits on the throne of his father David. And he rules them with a rod of iron, and the law shall go forth out of Zion, and shall flow together to the goodness of the Lord. Remember, he said, the knowledge of me shall fill the whole earth. For wheat, for wine, for oil, for the young of the flock and the herd. And their soul shall be as a watered garden. And they shall not sorrow anymore at all. How can you sorrow when you're serving King Jesus? We're talking about mortals that are going to enter the kingdom age for 1,000 years. Jesus will rule from Mount Zion, from the throne of his father David. It will be the center of the earth. It'll be the head of all nations. Nothing will happen on earth that Jesus doesn't know about and that Jesus doesn't allow. Only, that's true right now, but only in the millennium. Nothing's going to happen that he doesn't permit. In the millennium, we will be free of the temptation of the devil, because he's going to be cast into an abyss. He's going to be locked away, bound in a great chain for those 1,000 years. And we're not going to have the temptation of the culture of a society that, expects us to sin right along with it, and to love sin the way it loves sin, because the culture will be pure. It will be restored much like the Garden of Eden. and we will live in the presence of the King. We sang this song the other night at the gospel church. We shall see the King. We shall see the King. We shall see the King when he comes. And something, and we shall see the King when he comes. But it's more than just seeing him. We're going to be with him. And those people that regathered Israel, the remnant of Israel that enters the millennial kingdom mortal, they're going to be able to see King Jesus all the time. He's here, he is. He's going to be over there. He's going to be over there talking to somebody. He'll be over here talking to somebody. He's going to be sitting on the throne. Everybody's going to know King Jesus. And they'll sorrow no more. Their soul shall be as a watered garden. What do you think the world would be like if Jesus sitting on the throne and looking this way and that way and sending out his proclamations to do this and do that, and everybody willingly doing it, knowing that he never makes a wrong decision? Most of us, all hail the power of Jesus' name. That's right, Charlie. That's right, Gayla. We shall see the King when he comes. You know, the temptation of Satan will be gone. The temptation of the culture will be gone. We can't be tempted by society because it'll be a perfect society. It won't necessarily be perfect people because they're still mortal, but it will be a perfect rule from Jesus. Be the only ruler in history who ruled for the good of his people instead of the good of himself, because he doesn't need anything. He's already the God of glory. He is the one who was alive and was dead, and he's alive forevermore. Amen. And he holds the keys of death and hell. We get to that time, it says that and their soul, the people who were there in the kingdom, shall be as a watered garden. I've always liked that phrase. A friend of mine, James, I probably shouldn't say his last name, but I can't remember it. But he's the director of a mission in Joplin, Missouri, that we've been at before, at a rescue mission at homeless shelter. We do a Souls Harbor in Joplin, but over a little bit across town from there, still in the downtown area, is a place called the Watered Garden. And we ministered there before too, and I always liked that name. You know, James took that title for his mission from this verse. Their soul shall be as a watered garden. In verse 13 of chapter 31, and then shall the virgin rejoice in the dance, both young men and old together. For I will turn their mourning into joy and will comfort them and make them rejoice from their sorrow. The young ladies are going to dance for the young men, and they're going to be happy, and they're going to pick them some wives, and they're going to get married. And the lucky girls will get a young guy who ain't fat and weak. You're a big, strong man. No, I'm just throwing out stereotypes right and left. I'm not a girl. I have no idea what a girl wants. All I know about girls is that you grab one when you're a kid and you just hang on to them because it's like they're all the same. So just grab one and stick with her because, that one's yours. I managed to keep my nose clean most of the time by understanding this principle in my life. There are two women in the world. One of them's Velda and the other one's ain't. And that way I simplify my life's choices in that way. But the young men and the young women, they're going to dance. They're going to be happy. Why are they being happy and why are they dancing? That usually accompanies weddings, don't it? Celebrations. Because see, there's going to the mortals who come in, they're going to repopulate the earth. Peter calls it the restitution of all things. Jesus called it in the regeneration of the Son of Man. Well, what regeneration he's talking about? Well, see, he's always Jesus. He's always the Son of Man. He's always the Son of God. He's the Son of God now. And he's still Jesus. He didn't need to regenerate. But in the kingdom, in the millennial kingdom, under him, here on earth, the mortals will regenerate. And what that means is they're going to have babies. And it says, in the scripture, in Isaiah, it says that if a baby, it said that if a man dies at 100 years old, they would say he was just a child. Because the climate's going to be restored. The land is going to be different. There are not going to be any droughts. There's not going to be any earthquakes. There's not going to be any typhoons and hurricanes and tornadoes. Because the curse is gone. He has lifted the curse from the land. So we don't have the temptation of Satan. We don't have the temptation of society or the curse, because the curse has been lifted. But you see, we still have sin inside of us. And that is why some of the mortal people during the millennial kingdom will die. Not because they committed any great sin, but because the sin is inside them. Of course, we're not going to go into this now, but we know that at the end of the 1,000 years, that Satan will be loosed for a short time and will gather unto him an army that it numbers as much as the sands of the sea. I mean, he's able to get a lot of people to follow him once he's let out, even people who have lived in the perfect kingdom of King Jesus. But he's going to make them rejoice from their sorrow. And God says in verse 14, and I will satiate the soul of the priest with fatness. Priest, and my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, saith the Lord. I thought the Lamb was the temple thereof. Yeah, the new heaven and the new earth, not the millennial kingdom. The millennial kingdom is a physical kingdom here on earth. And Jesus is the king promised to Israel that would sit on the throne of his father David, and that would be an everlasting covenant. It would be an everlasting throne. He says that your seed shall reign. This throne is established forever. 2 Samuel chapter 7. As the gamblers in the old Western movies used to say, read them and weep. Said the priest will be satiated, and the people will be satisfied with my goodness, saith the Lord. Well, Jesus is not the temple. During the millennium, he's the temple of the new heaven and the new earth, because there's no need to be a temple because he's there all the time. Now, he's going to sit on the throne of his father David, and they will build a new temple during the millennium, and it'll either be built. There's a lot of argument about this. I'm going to tell you what a lot of people think, and then I'll tell you what I think. I think that the tribulation temple is probably going to be destroyed, or mostly destroyed, during all these wars at the end times, the last 3.5 years of the reign of the Antichrist, when all these people who used to be allied with him are starting to turn against him. And since he is in and out of Jerusalem all the time and trying to kill all the Jews, and then there's going to be a lot of destruction around there. And so I believe that temple that's going to exist during the tribulation is either going to be destroyed or mostly destroyed. The temple that's going to be on earth during the millennial kingdom is the temple that Ezekiel describes and measures out in Ezekiel chapters 40 all the way to the end. And so that is the temple that I believe is going to be there. A lot of people think it would just be the millennial temple. I don't. And that it would just be the tribulation temple rebuilt. I don't. Because God was very specific with Ezekiel about drawing the temple that's going to be here during the millennium, during the reign of Christ on earth. Now, in verse 15, thus saith the Lord, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children and refused to be comforted for her children because they were not. This applies to the millennium because there will be many Jews killed during the Great Tribulation. When, depending on when the Great Tribulation comes, if it came tomorrow, if it started tomorrow, then roughly 12 million Jews would die because Satan is going to try to kill all the Jews. He tried it once before. He tried it during World War II. And with Hitler, Satan tried to kill all the Jews. He managed to kill 1/3 of the Jews in the world at that time, a little more than 1/3. Well, we've built up to a little more than the number of the Jews that were then. But it's taken a long time. You take 6 million Jews out of the equation and out of the gene pool, and then you have the rest of them try to repopulate their people. And it's only been, it's only been 79 years since all that was over. So, or 75 years since all that was. Is it 75? No, it'd be 79. 45, 25 is 80, 24, that's 79 years. But during the Great Tribulation, Satan will be more successful than he was during Hitler's era. And so there will be a lot of weeping. That's what they're weeping for. Now, this is quoted, of course, in the New Testament in the account that Matthew gives when the wise men come to see Herod. And, at Christmas time, we always have a kid come out, and there's the Magi, and there's 3 of them. Well, we know there weren't 3 of them. They traveled in caravans with animals and livestock and all kinds of stuff. There weren't any McDonald's or Burger Kings on the way, so wherever they went, they had their herds. They had to eat from them, and they had soldiers to protect them on the way. There might have been 500, 1,000 people in that company. But they come to see the king about baby Jesus. And chapter 2, verse 1 in Matthew, it says, now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east of Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews? For we have seen a star in the east, and we are come to worship him. Now, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea. For thus it is written by the prophet, and that was Micah, chapter 5. And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. And Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, and that I may come and worship him also. He didn't want to worship him, he wanted to kill him. And when they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. When they were coming to the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. Not her, mind you, him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their country another way. And when they were departed, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt. And be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. And when he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet. In Ramah there was a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they were not. And old Herod gets his, he dies right after that. So that was a fulfillment. This is also a fulfillment, because this is going to take place during the tribulation. They're crying for the possibly 12 million Jews that were slaughtered by the Antichrist during the Great Tribulation. Good morning, Kevin. God bless you. Well, he's going to comfort them. In verse 16, Thus saith the Lord, Refrain thy voice from weeping, and thine eyes from tears, for thy work shall be rewarded, saith the Lord. And they shall come again from the land of the enemy, all the ones that are left. And there is hope in thine end, saith the Lord, that thy children shall come again to her border. There is a future for Israel. There is a future. This is not talking about the return from Babylonian captivity, because that wasn't the way they returned. He is talking about the whole house of Israel returning in peace. That hasn't happened yet, which means it's going to happen in the future still. No prophecy in the Bible goes unfulfilled. God bless you. We'll take this up again tomorrow.